that's what we're all desperately trying to do, is to write something unique that's engaging and that hasn't been done before. And I don't know, that was a lot of fun. I really, it all came together very neatly in my head, and it was really like kismet. It felt like, it was meant to be, honestly. I was fascinated with alchemy. I wanted to have portal magic to transfer between realms and places. And originally I had thought, oh, it's mirrors, and I had written that through line. Like when I first started out, I'd maybe written 2 or 3 chapters and gotten to that point where she does kind of like go through that portal in the first couple chapters. And I was like, no, I'm missing a trick here. What am I doing? Of course it's Quicksilver. Of course it is. Because it's part of alchemy. It's like the basis of alchemy. It's like gonna be her magic system anyway. So it made perfect sense to me. I think that writing in a fantasy setting and trying to create something new goes hand in hand with really developing your voice as a writer, which is not an easy task. I've been doing it for since 2012, as I say, and I still feel like I've not. I think it's a moving target. I don't think at any point any writer is ever going to go, okay, this is it. This is, cut and dried how I write, and this is my true authentic voice, because we change, we have life experiences, we live, we like, um, everything evolves, everything changes. So it is like a moving target, but kind of like knowing how to express yourself and to, I don't know, transfer a little bit of like your soul onto the page a little bit. You know what I mean? That goes hand in hand with, you know, trying to find a way to transport what's in here to, like, the masses, hopefully. It's tricky. It's not an easy task. Ceres has obviously transformed. Like, she's no longer human. But she's again a very unique individual. She's the one of one in Evelia. She is now half vampire, half fae, thanks to a deal that she strikes with the gods when she goes and sees Zareth at the end of book one. So she's not even human anymore, and she's not vampire, she's not fae, she's a combination of both, to her detriment and to, there are definite pros and cons to like being this kind of hybrid. And yes, she is stepping into the blood court, which is, Malcolm's, seat of power. She is a usurper. She has murdered their king, the only king they've ever had. And she is unwelcome, and she doesn't know what she's doing with her magic, and she does not want power. And the last thing she wants to do right now is to step into this role as leader of a whole court full of monsters, essentially. And now suddenly has, the horde at her fingertips. She is stepping into this role, like, especially considering, her mate is a sworn enemy of this court, and it's a very conflicting and tense situation to be in, and she doesn't want any part of it. But then the alternative is that someone else steps in and becomes, Malcolm 2.0, which no one wants. So they have a game plan. That's all I'll say. But there is like method to the madness, and it's just interesting. It was an interesting exercise to put Ceres into these scenarios where she had to test her metal was tested. And she is a very fiercely independent, like strong woman as well. So, we get to see her shine, and I love that. Carrion Swift is a fan favorite in book one. I am very aware of that, which is very cool. I did not know how he was going to translate on the page to other people, but for me, he was this really like fun, joyous character who brought levity to really tense situations and just a bit of like ridiculousness. And I don't consider myself a funny person, but I don't know what I channeled to write him, but it was really fun. Like, he does have some moments where I'm like, this is, so entertaining for me to write. So, getting to continue that into book two is definitely, a huge part of Brimstone. We see Carrion and Kingfisher spending a lot of alone time together, unsupervised, which is a very bad idea, if anyone is wondering. And yeah, we get to see a lot more of the dynamic between side characters in general as well with the main characters. We learn a lot more about their backstories and their story arcs. You know, I love really filling in the details on these characters because they each bring something different to the story for me. And being able to share small pieces of them as we go along, knowing like, what's coming in the future for them and how things, play into that, and these little Easter eggs that are going to crop up again for sure later on. I'm wondering if people are going to pick up on them. In book 2, we've got a couple of new players on the stage. We've got Taladeus, who we did meet at the end of book 1, and then we have another character, Foley, who is one of their lost members of the Lupo Borrelia, their brother, who has been living in Amentreth, like cloistered away in the library for the last 1,000 years because he hates who he's become, and he's a really interesting character, and he plays a huge part in the story as we move forward. So I have high hopes that the readers are going to love him because he has some really cool moments coming. I'm very excited for them.